Hey guys, I'm sorry I'm late. I got into talking about defragmentation with Josh in the core stand-up and lost track of time. Um, Hopefully we can maybe continue that conversation here. Uh, all right, so obviously core is still going on. Hopefully we will get some of those folks soon. Oh, hey Josh, you came. Um,
Your last thing. So how we're filtering over here.
oh, good. That's good. Um, all right, well let's start this thing then. Oh, I gotta go find my a web browser tab for the performance meeting. Give me 1 second. All right. So I confess again that I was not great this morning and didn't make it all the way through the PRs, but I got through at least a decent number of them. Um, okay. So new PRs this week. There are two that I noticed, but I think there might have been possibly some others, but if I missed any ones, let me know. The two that I saw were Matan has a PR for the Crimson suite, the QA suite, to basically fix an issue with collect all not being installed. This is basically just for the Crimson performance test to be able to collect a whole bunch of background system level information. And I guess in the QA suite we didn't work in collect all data before, so this PR should fix that. I approved it. I didn't test it. It looked fine just from a casual glance, though. So I figure that if there are issues, we'll figure it out after this is applied. Not super worried about it. Okay, and the next PR was also a Crimson PR. This is to add fine-grained caching. This was from one of the developers at Intel. They also conveniently provided a benchmark in the PR, which I always am very happy to see. And in the 4 megabyte prefill case, they saw a really huge increase in performance, which honestly actually surprises me just a little bit. Oh, I'm sorry, this is a 4K rand read performance test after doing a 4 megabyte prefill. That's what they mean here. So again, it actually surprises me a little bit. I didn't see anything quite this bad the last time I looked. Oh, this is C-Store though. Anyway, sorry. I'm getting lost in this. Looks like a good improvement. So I think once Sam has a chance to look at that, hopefully we'll merge that pretty quickly. But definitely good things. Those were the only two new PRs that I saw. I didn't make it fully through the PR list, but I didn't see anything obvious that had closed that was new anyway. I did see a couple of updated PRs. There have been some additional reviews on the QAT batch PR. That's from Intel again, I think. There is Igor's PR, or sorry, Corey's PR for setting the RocksDB iterator bounds for collection list. I think that has a couple of new fixes in place. Let me open it up quick and take a look. Actually, no, I was wrong on that. Those fixes were not this week. Those were older. So I think that actually needs to be moved. No updates or no movement category. I'll do that now. The other PR that I did see that was updated though was Igor's PR for not resetting the prefetched buffer while doing multi-chunk. I think it's probably supposed to say reads at the end there. But basically, BlueFS prefetching behavior. And I think the hope is that this might help us with RocksDB when it's trying to do prefetches. If it does, there's a chance that we might be able to re-enable BlueStore buffer, disable BlueStore buffered I/O if this works well. We'll see. But generally speaking, that was the big reason that we had to revert the switch to direct I/O, that we're not reading from the block cache in RocksDB properly, or RocksDB isn't. There's some issue there, and we're entirely relying on the page cache, the Linux kernel page cache. And if we can somehow improve things at the BlueFS layer, then maybe we don't need to do that anymore. Igor, is that right? Am I overstating the importance here, or is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, I believe you overestimate the purpose of this specific PR. Actually, it just improves buffer reuse, or prefetch buffer reuse. So in some cases, I could see it's reset still holding some useful data. So originally this PR was fixing that specific issue, so just better using the prefetch buffer. And lately I discovered that it could result in RAM usage growth while RocksDB performing bulky data reads from DB, for instance, during iterating over every record. It doesn't close all SST files along the path, and if we do not trim our buffers as well, you'll see, gigabytes of RAM occupied. So the latest update improved this trimming as well.
Nice. Remind me, can we still use the read ahead at the BlueFS layer if we're using BlueStore buffered I/O false? Will that still work?
If I remember correctly, we have some flag which prevents us from doing that, but
Okay. So I mean, the behavior it seems like we see is that when we do BlueStore buffered I/O false, we're not properly reading from the RocksDB block cache for whatever reason, and we're not doing any kind of prefetch, and so we end up just rereading the same blocks over and over again when we do these kinds of listing steps where we re-list or evaluate some kind of iteration, and we also are not doing any kind of prefetching very well. So we basically just end up relying on the page cache in the kernel to save us. But there's probably multiple ways that we could avoid this at the BlueFS layer, I suspect, while still doing direct I/O against the kernel.
Maybe I'm wrong, but it looked to me like we disable our own prefetch using this flag, and also we use direct I/O for discretes, and hence apparently emit kernel pages as well.
Yeah. I wonder if we want to do direct I/O under the hood, but still have our own ability to do prefetching. Maybe.
And what's the rationale behind it?
That strangely, it doesn't seem like RocksDB is behaving well. I guess.
Well,
okay, the hope would be, right, that if you read an SST file right? You have to do an iteration over an SSD file. You would hope that RocksDB is doing like a big sequential read to read the SSD, right?
It actually does. At least for some sequential scans, it reads SSD file using prefetch call, which attempts to get something like half a meg, and then it scans through that block using small reads. And we might want to substitute the original buffer size with increased one during this prefetch call. But honestly, I haven't seen much improvement in that case.
What I remember, and it's possible that I'm misremembering, is that when we disabled BlueStore buffered I/O, we saw during iteration, we would do this. We have this pattern where we will iterate to a point, and then we might do like a deletion, and then we do like a range scan and start at a certain offset again, and then reiterate over again till we hit another point where we do a deletion, and we reiterate over the same range over and over again. And when we have BlueStore buffered I/O on, we do the reads from page cache. But when we don't, with direct I/O, we end up like doing that over and over again, and we do small reads against the disk. That's what I remember seeing.
Yeah, that's apparently a prop scenario. At least valid description. It's nice to have page cache at this point.
But we don't really want it, right? Like it's slower. Like in other parts of the OSD, it's faster to use direct I/O, and we don't really want to mix them. So I guess what I was wondering is, can we do direct I/O against the kernel, but still have some kind of prefetch buffer that we keep ourselves at the BlueFS layer?
The issue with RocksDB is that it attempts to read from the same locations multiple times. And that's different from what we expect to have at OSD level. So regularly users do not read the same data from the same locations in a short period of time, since they use their own caching or things like that. So
yeah. And you'd expect that if you did a reread of the same region, that it should be read from block cache. But for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to. I don't know if that's because it's just failing, or if it's because maybe we're triggering the eviction of the block cache. I do sometimes see that RocksDB like evicts the entire block cache, maybe due to SSD files becoming invalid. But it's definitely not working the way I expected it to.
Can't say anything about RocksDB caching, so honestly, I haven't looked into that in depth.
I suspect it will be easy.
Never I saw some good enough stats on that to get any insight what's happening.
We might be able to fix it at the RocksDB layer, but I suspect that it might be easier for us to just kind of do it at the BlueFS layer before we hit the kernel, but maybe just leave RocksDB alone.
The question is if overhead to access page cache is significant. So if it does, then we definitely would like to have cache as close to RocksDB as possible. While if it's not the case, then you can still rely on page cache. So, and I don't see much. Honestly, I don't see much overhead in accessing page cache. So to me, I did brief benchmarking, collecting some latencies and numbers on operation latency. I honestly didn't see any overhead here. So
I think it's been a while, but I'm pretty sure that a couple of years ago when we were looking at this on the Intel aficionados nodes where we had fast NVMe drives, that direct I/O was faster, maybe like 10% or something. Let me see if I can find one of the old PRs.
Actually, there are two questions here. If direct I/O is faster than buffered one, and second, if it's better to have block cache over page cache. I mean block cache at RocksDB rather than page cache. So
yeah,
what would be the overhead of having page cache accessed?
I think the block cache is going to be tricky because it seems like it just doesn't consistently keep things cached the way that it should. And maybe we can fix that, but I'm not convinced because the RocksDB guys don't seem to like merging a lot of external PRs. But if we showcased a really clear example, maybe we could. I think the bigger issue, though, is that we have to make sure that our iteration performance remains good one way or another. It'd be nice if we had some guarantee that we could do it in our code rather than relying either on RocksDB or on the Linux page cache, right? Like I don't like being reliant on either of those things.
I have a bit different thoughts about having synchronous or maybe parallel access to data. So right now it looks like RocksDB, well, at least for large scans, it performs reading in sequential manner.
Yeah.
And maybe if we do prefetch more smart, at least at our level, and trigger disk reads beforehand, this might provide some benefit. Because right now I can't see, so for these sequential scans, I could see that we underperform from disk bandwidth point of view, like twice slower than the disk is capable, and that's for SATA drive. I am afraid that for NVMe drives it might be even worse. And yeah, so if we manage to access disk in parallel somehow, maybe prefetch data in parallel, we could benefit from that.
Yeah, it's a good idea. So Igor, I think I found some of the old info in this PR. This was, I think, testing that other people at Red Hat had done. I think I had done some as well. But the stuff that's in the PR is from other people on Vikat's team, I think. I think that case was using hard drives, probably with NVMe DB wall. Yeah. Well, anyway, take a look. We can think about it more, but I think it's a good thing for us to figure out if we can go back, figure out a way to go back to BlueFS buffered I/O disabled. I think it's a good idea, at least to try. Oh, Joshua, you say plus 1,000.
Yeah, I mean, I've offered my opinion on BlueFS buffered I/O before.
Please do so again.
Yeah, we have it disabled everywhere except for index OSD because for us it makes everything worse.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we just need to figure out how to deal with this super irritating corner case that actually ends up being kind of a big corner case. But I very much would like to see if we can move back to disabling it.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't paying full attention the whole time. Is this the issue where we seem to prefetch the same data over and over again, or something else?
Yeah, exactly. So I was asking you, Igor, if there's any chance that we can do prefetch at the BlueFS level without and still disable the store buffered I/O to the kernel, like do direct I/O to the kernel, but still have our own prefetch buffer at the BlueFS level.
Well, that's definitely easy doable. So we just need to separate. Well, maybe there is different flags to control prefetching at the BlueFS and another one to have page cache enabled. That's definitely not a big deal to support.
Something I actually started to think about, I don't think I wrote any code for it though, is like technically we don't have to prefetch at the BlueFS level. We just need to cache, right? Because if the issue is that RocksDB is basically asking for the same data over and over again, if you just give it that data from memory, you're good.
Yeah.
What I wanted to do though was, and like I've had zero time to do this for years now, but was figure out why it's asking for the same data over and over again when it should be caching that internally.
I did like a huge like walkthrough of the RocksDB code, and it's changed dramatically in like the last 3 years. Like it's very different for Nautilus versus Pacific. So it's probably going to take like multiple independent code walkthroughs to figure out what each version of RocksDB is actually doing.
Yeah, do we know it still has that behavior?
Not with the latest merge, right? Like in Reef, we just did a huge upgrade, and I have no idea. So, yeah, we should probably do that again.
Well, just my comment. I disagree about getting rid of prefetching, since it's still helpful for long scans, and RocksDB behaves in a way where it issues a call to underlying file system saying specifying large block to retrieve, and then scans it through using small reads. And if we do not, so these secondary reads, they are not repetitive. They just incremental access to incremental scan reads from that previously specified extent. So there are no repetitive access during that, and without prefetching, they would be very inefficient.
Yeah. I don't think we have to get rid of like prefetch. I think we just need to make sure that we're taking care of this one use case where we see this awful behavior. I mean, like everything I was seeing with BlueFS buffered IO off looked better, except in this one case. So like, if we take care of that, I think we can probably reevaluate this like for the third time.
Yeah, actually, Alex is on the call here. I think he might still be on the call, and he said the same thing internally, because we've also flip-flopped like several times internally as to whether it's better or not to have it on, but we've mostly landed with it off.
Yeah, that was where I was at, and then people got burned, and I was like, oh. I think Dan Vandister wrote another PR to disable it again, or to turn it back on, to turn BlueFS buffered IO back on again, and then we just kind of like, yeah, I think we need to do that because too many people are hitting this awful case. But I really want to get back to being able to switch it back to direct IO if we can. All right, have we beaten this horse to death again sufficiently for today? All right, I'll take that as a yes. So, okay, those were updated PRs. Did I miss anything, guys? I didn't make it quite through the list today. So, was there anything I missed? All right. If not, then I don't actually have anything listed for today for discussion topics. Does anyone want to jump into the fray? If not, I do have one thing I could actually bring up. Matan, I think were you the author of the PR for CBT to disable the existing check for the results directory?
I'm not sure which one you refer to.
1 second, I can pull it up. Neha sent me a link to this yesterday, I think.
I think you might refer to Nitsan, might be?
Sorry, it was Nitsan's PR. He had said that Nitsan was going to come to the meeting to talk about it. I couldn't remember.
His names are confusing.
I'm terrible with names. I couldn't remember who did it, so I apologize. But I guess I did want to talk about this possibly. The goal with that particular line of code that's there is to prevent the rerunning of tests that were already run, and that particular check has saved me many times in the past from overwriting existing test data when you've run it against an existing directory. So in it sounds like for some reason in the tautology test that use CBT, it's triggering this code, causing, I guess, a result directory to be created in the second loop of a benchmark, and it will skip that. But I don't see this in any of the testing I've done in like the year or two that this code has been there. It's always worked properly for me, so I'm trying to figure out why we're hitting this in the tautology case and not in any of the other test cases that I've done. I don't think that getting rid of the check is the right solution, but I don't have a good answer for what the right solution is. I'm just not sure I want to get rid of that check. completely. So anyway, that's the status of that, I guess. I'll have to talk to Nitsan about it.
Mark, the comment, the PR comment says that the problem is a new one introduced by a specific commit from.
Yeah, exactly. But I've been running that code for years, I think, at this point, without having this problem. So I'm trying to understand why it's happening in the Teuthology case and not in any of the other, I mean, like literally thousands of tests that I've run since then. Like the comment says that after benchmark initialization, the directory existence was skipping it. But I don't see that in the test that I do. So I'm confused why it happens. What's the difference? Maybe there's some difference in the way that check is happening with the Rados benchmark, if this is all Rados tests. Maybe there's that exists call is behaving differently or something. It's not happening in the HS bench or the FIO test that I do, but I don't run a lot of Rados bench tests these days. So maybe it's specific to Rados bench if that's what Teuthology is trying to call. Well, I'll try to follow up with Nitsan and see if we can just hash it out and figure out what's going on here. But that's I guess the status of this thing is I'm hoping we can just figure out a more nuanced fix than completely disabling the existing directory check. Well, that's all I have. So unless anyone else has anything, maybe we wrap up a little early today. All right, I'll take that as a sign no one's got anything. So enjoy the rest of your day, guys, and I'll see you next week. Have a good one.
Bye, thanks.
Bye, guys.